Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Hopefully, you had a good vacation and all that stuff. Today, we're going to pick up where we left off. At the end of the week before, we were talking about the Harlem Renaissance. We were talking about this guy named Langston Hughes. We learned a little bit about his biography. So, if you don't remember any of that, you really should rewatch that video because the poem that we read today, I think it's going to be helpful to understand a little bit of what the poet Langston Hughes went through. Now, when you're reading anything that anybody has written, you need to be careful because it's not always them that they are writing about. So, for example, I use Stephen King all the time. He has written a biography. I know a little bit about his life, but when you read a book like, I don't know, any book that he has that, monsters are coming out, supernatural, it's not always himself that he's writing about. So sometimes you really have to distance what the writer is saying from their life. Just because a writer is using I did this as a character, they're often like an actor playing a part. With that said, I think in this story, it's a poem. In this poem, when we think about the Harlem Renaissance and what was going on in the lives of African Americans at the time, a lot of that might have to do with this poem. At the same time, I think you can read it from anybody's point of view, no matter the skin color, and then you can relate it. I think that's why this poem is still being read today, even though it was written in the 1920s and 30s, because it speaks to so many other people. But think about what was going on in Langston Hughes's life. Think about what was going on in the lives of African Americans at the time. And then think of anybody, this is called a dream deferred. So think of anybody who has a dream, but for some reason that dream can't come true. So then this poem might speak to a whole host of people. So I really like it. And like I said with poems before, it is meant to be read and reread. So we'll read it like once maybe today. And he does use a lot of metaphor in this. A lot. And then simile, metaphor and simile. So, and it's allergy season, right? Jeez, man. Before I started this, I was really sneezing up a storm. But Langston Hughes, Harlem, it's called. But a lot of times you'll hear this referred to as a dream deferred. So what happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat? Or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load. Or does it explode? So when you first read a poem, if you're anything like me, you might think, what the heck did I just read? Because a lot is happening in that poem at the same time. When you look at the words, I'm not going to count them. What, are there like 30, 40 words there? But when you get to the meaning behind those words, it's really, really deep. And I don't want to say too much about the poem today. Over the course of the week, we'll keep revisiting this and hopefully it'll make a little bit more sense, but feel free to read it to yourself. I'll put the PDF to this poem in the on Google Classroom. But let's read it just one more time, and see if anything else sinks in. Harlem by Langston Hughes. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Or, no, there's no or there. I added the or. Maybe it just sags like a heavy load. or does it explode? So again, I don't want to say too much about this because one person could read this poem, have one idea, another person. I have an idea of what this poem is about and what it means to me, but I would never really want to tell you what to think. Now, if you come to a point where you're like, I don't know, well, then we'll talk. But for this first day, I just want you to think about that poem. What could it mean to Langston Hughes as he wrote it? If you're not sure, deferred, it's almost like delayed. So the question is, what happens to a dream that is delayed? What happens to a dream that can't be realized like right away or maybe ever? So I don't know, maybe apply it to your life. Like, what is your dream? What would you like to see happen? And maybe it's not happening. You have to wait. What happens to that dream? So just be thinking about that. Don't want to say too much on this first day with this poem, but hope you enjoyed it. Hope it's making you think. All right, hope so. Middle school, right? Poems. Hey, 31 days left, I think, something like that. So we're almost at the end, but hopefully you like this.